Could you give a little bit of background context, Kevin, on the domain industry and on how you went from being in med school to literally owning, a sizable chunk of the internet in the early 2000s, from a domain perspective, at least?
Yeah, it was a business. I'd never taken a business or a computer course or anything like that in the past. I was really sick at the age of 14. I wasn't able to walk or move. I was hospitalized for a few weeks. And at that time, I said, if I live, I want to be a doctor. So at age 14, I knew my path. So I went to the local here, University of British Columbia Medical School, did my residency in family practice. And while I was doing my residency, I realized that I was doing the same type of lifestyle that my father was in. And he, growing up, he was 24/7, 365. He took no holidays. Like, I don't remember. The only time we saw our father was when we worked with him after school in his laundromats or his dry cleaners.
You
He
had to
also
work with them to hang out with them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, even on Christmas, right? He would have these arcade games in the laundromats. So we'd play the video games even during Christmas, right? And he bought a grocery store. Both Mike and I worked there. Even when I was going to med school, I was working at the grocery store. My father didn't pay us, but we got these kind of interesting experiences, right? Of what it takes to earn a living. I kind of thought, I'm never going to do what my father does. I want to spend time with my kids and my family. And what I realized in medicine was, well, you're called 3 times a week. If you're not there, you're not really practicing medicine. So I was like, it's a different profession. The notion of helping people is really altruistic. But really what I thought was, I'm in a similar situation as my father, right? And I was like, how do I get out of this? Like, seeing 40 patients a day, I want to spend more than 10 minutes with the patient. So now patients are waiting 2 hours for me. I feel bad about that. And how do I get out of this system? And I thought, okay, I have to detach it from the finances. So I thought, okay, what better way than start an internet business that runs on its own? And I always had this notion of doing something on the internet because I believed it would be one of the greatest revolutions in history, right? It would combine all media forms onto it. It'd be accessible to anybody for education, for information, for media. So I wanted to be part of it. And I thought, what could I do in my spare time that would create this self-managing type of business? And I was thinking about, well, if the internet is a new form of media, what is in the existing world that you could kind of port over? And I was thinking, in the beginning, everybody would need to know where to go to. So I was thinking of an online Yellow Pages version, but it was too big, right? So I thought, okay, how can I do Yellow Pages in a way that will help people who want to be building something on the internet? So I thought of web hosting companies and domain name companies. You need a domain name. And when I was trying to register a domain in 1997, it was like every domain I thought of, it was not available. And I was like, okay, so I remember thinking of a company naming the company Inkblot, right? Based on the Rorschach's, right, design. And I was like, for sure that must be available. And I was so shocked that it wasn't available. Then I was like, okay, what else can I come up that's more creative that nobody would have registered? And I thought turning Inkblot into INC, BLOT, like incorporation block. I was like, surely no one thought of this name. It was taken. I was so shocked. So my first domain I ever registered was inc-blot.com. I had to put a dash in order to register it. So later when I discovered, after I built these web hosting Yellow Pages and a domain resource Yellow Pages, I offered this service where you could register names that are not yet registered, but are pretty good. And so I would come up with all these names, sell a subscription service, and I made $5,000 to $10,000 every month just on the subscription service. And I made $20,000 to $30,000 a month within 6 months while doing residency on the Yellow Pages, because the web host would be advertising on my Yellow Page directory. So I learned what not to do I use a scientific method of just rapidly validating hypotheses and disproving assumptions, because I was biochemistry. I did a lot of research. That's what you do, right? And because I wanted cash flows, I always thought, like, how can I make cash flows? And I learned that from my dad, right? So ultimately, when I finished med school, I was making 30,000 US a month. This is as a resident, I was making 45,000 Canadian, and a US dollar was $1.60 Canadian at that time. So I thought I would kind of do this another 3 to 6 months and go back to medicine. But I had so much fun and I've enjoyed it so much. I've been doing e-commerce and internet business for 22 years now.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.